James Hunt for highlights of the first race in this year's Grand Prix season, the US Grand Prix West at Long Beach, California.
Long Beach, just south of Los Angeles, is the Monaco of the New World, for it's a bumpy street circuit with a 2-mile lap which twists and turns through the city, past the high-rise buildings and along the waterfront by the landlocked Queen Mary. And with the winter-long, bitter feuding between motor racing's governing body and the car constructors over, it's the first World Championship event of the year. And it's a race that's wide open because of the new no-skirts ruling and the fact that for the first time all the cars are on Michelin radial tyres, plus the first appearance of new cars from no less than 8 teams, including the Turbo Ferraris and the 12-cylinder Talbot Matras, but not the innovative and controversial new Lotus 88, which has been excluded by the stewards for allegedly infringing the design rules. There's some notable driver changes too, like Mario Andretti here to Alfa Romeo, Prost to Renault and Pironi to Ferrari. But at the end of practice, it's the totally unexpected, long-serving Riccardo Patrese in last year's Arrows in his first ever pole position, with a lap at 1 minute 19.4, about 1.5 seconds slower than Piquet's time with skirts on his Brabham last year. Then, a surprise to no one, the 2 new Williams cars of world champion Alan Jones, just ahead of his teammate, South African Grand Prix winner Carlos Reutemann. 4th fastest, last year's winner Nelson Piquet. And then, back in the action, Gilles Villeneuve in the 1.5-litre Turbo Ferrari. 6th, Mario Andretti in the Alfa Romeo, and a superb 7th, the top British driver, Nigel Mansell in his Lotus 81. John Watson's just qualified, but Derek Daly hasn't for the 80.5 lap, 162-mile American Grand Prix West.
Well, they finally sorted out all the dramas and arguments and the politics of Grand Prix racing. We now have an agreed set of rules. We have a full field of cars have turned up at Long Beach, and we're back to business as normal. And what a marvelous setting it is to be here in sunny Southern California. Without a doubt, the best street circuit on the program for the racers. It's a tough track, like all street circuits, very hard, very twisty, hard work on the driver, need a lot of endurance and a lot of concentration, of course, because one little mistake puts you in the wall. There's no room for any errors, unlike a normal track where you get a bit of runoff area and that sort of thing. So it's a big test, and of course the big surprise was Patrese getting the pole position in the revamped Arrows car, their new car. That's obviously going to be an interesting point of form. They've changed designers at the Arrows team, so this may well be a portent of things to come. The Brabham was expected to go very, very well here. It's been going very well in testing, and quicker than the Williams on both occasions when they've tested under similar conditions. But their innovative new suspension system was not working well on the first day of practice, so they took it off and they're running the car with normal springs, and this would probably account for it not being quite as quick as they had hoped. Otherwise, it's all much as normal. The Ferraris have got their turbocharged engines in the car now, one turbocharged and the other a slightly modified system of that.
So a testing time for Riccardo Patrese in the orange Arrows. Away they go, and surging out from the back comes Didier Pironi in the Ferrari, but it's Patrese leading away, then the two Williams cars behind him, and one of the Ferraris coming up very fast on the left as they go down to Queens, and it's Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve goes into the lead. He's locked up solid. He's sliding the Ferrari. Patrese goes through, then the two Williams cars, and Villeneuve through into fourth position, and a Renault stuck, obviously been punted off. It's either Prost or Arnoux, obviously, but it's Patrese leading. And in second place, it's Carlos Reutemann, the South African Grand Prix winner, behind him in the Williams. Then it's Alan Jones. Then it's Didier Pironi in the Ferrari. And then Nelson Piquet in fifth place. That's the half lap completed. 80 full laps to go now. Patrese a car's length ahead of the Williams. And it's Reutemann, the Argentine driver, and Patrese second in this race last year. Pole position in practice is certainly making the most of that clear track ahead of it.
Yes, so Patrese must be very pleased to have got the start all right and got away in the lead, because of course, as with any circuit, but particularly on a street circuit, overtaking is extremely difficult, and of course it's essential to get away and get as good a placing as you can at the start. Hence Villeneuve's very aggressive charge up the outside under braking them for the first corner, which of course didn't quite work out for him.
Down to the Queen's hairpin where Regazzoni crashed last year, and it's Patrese, Reutemann, then Alan Jones. The two Williams cars, brand new cars incidentally, they were just wooden mock-ups only a month ago, and they're going magnificently on this demanding circuit, but so too is the Arrows, with Patrese at the wheel. Clear circuit ahead, Reutemann, then Jones. Watch the new turbocharged Ferrari, the Scarlet car of Gilles Villeneuve, who is in fourth place, and there he goes, followed by Piquet, followed by Pironi, followed by Chiva, then it's Andretti and Jacques Lafitte in the new Talbot Matra.
Well, here we're now going to have a look at the start again. You see, the exciting one is on the back right a bit. Pironi coming through in the Ferrari, finding his way through. The Ferrari's engine is very powerful. They've got a little bit more acceleration than the others. And as you can see, as we change shot, yes, and here's Villeneuve coming up the outside, you see, but he's overcooked his side. You see him just slide a bit there as he locks his brakes up, keeps it all together though, runs a little bit wide and manages is quite fortunate to be able to nip back into the group. And there's a puff of smoke in the background, which is the shunt that was going on that we didn't quite catch.
And that's Andrea de Cesaris's car, the McLaren, not the new Marlboro car. It's last year's car, and Andrea de Cesaris, the Italian, is obviously well and truly out of the race as Patrese comes down to Queens again. Reutemann a bit closer, Jones dropping back, Piquet trying to get through. He's ahead of Villeneuve, and Pironi is up into fourth place. Didier Pironi in his first drive for Ferrari. Last year he drove for the Ligier team and drove absolutely brilliantly. Then he amazed everybody by switching to Ferrari, and it looks as though he's certainly justifying his move, because there's Pironi followed by Piquet in the Brabham, the man who won this race last year. Gilles Villeneuve behind him. Eddie Cheever, the American driver, it's his first season in the Tyrrell team, and 5 laps completed. There's the order. The Arrows leading the two Williams cars, followed by Pironi's Ferrari, another Ferrari in 6th position, and there is Pironi. Piquet, Villeneuve. Tremendously demanding on the car's transmissions and braking systems is this Long Beach circuit, because you're braking and accelerating all the time, reversing the stresses, and it's Pironi, Piquet, Villeneuve round the right-hander at Le Gazoumet. And in the pits, that's Jan Lammers, 4th fastest in practice last year. He's in the ATS, and that's John Watson, going very slowly and being passed and lapped by Riccardo Patrese. So the leader has already, at this early stage of the race, Riccardo Patrese, driving a very cool race indeed, lapped John Watson. And John Watson's season here at Long Beach isn't going so well, although he drove magnificently in South Africa and led the race there for a while. But it's Patrese keeping ahead of the two Williams cars, the South African Grand Prix winner behind him, Carlos Reutemann. And just look at this demanding Long Beach circuit. 2.02 miles. The lap records held by Piquet, 1 minute 18.8 seconds, and that's an incredible speed of 91.1 miles an hour. Patrese Reutemann, Jones, and look at the gap behind Alan Jones. Only the two Williams cars are able to keep up with Patrese, who's going now round the fastest part of the course, the long sweeping curve that goes along Shoreline Drive and down to the right hand of the hairpin at Queens, which is where he is now. Then it's into the left-hander on his way to Pine Avenue, and now look, the track absolutely clear before the fourth man comes into sight, and it's the Ferrari, the turbocharged 1.5-litre Ferrari of Pironi, followed by Piquet, followed by Villeneuve. Then it's Cheever and Andretti and Alfa Romeo and Lafitte, and then the rest of them streaming round, including the second Alfa Romeo with Bruno Giacomelli at the wheel. Over the crest at Linden Avenue and down the hill into the right-hander, and then swinging left goes Riccardo Patrese. He's got a beautiful rhythm going now. He's driving smoothly. He's coming up to catch a tail ender, and there's somebody in the pits. That's John Watson in the pits, and in the background, one of the two Renault cars, and it's René Arnoux, who was in second fastest position last year after practice, and you can see now from that low shot how very, very quickly they're going. Pironi and Piquet's caught right up with Pironi.
Yes, we're getting quite a good battle going for fourth place now, because the cars behind them have closed up, and so we've got something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars all fighting it out. Pironi, of course, with the extra power of the turbocharged Ferrari, is in a pretty strong position in the front of it, because of course he can out-accelerate people down the straights, which makes it, it's probably making life very frustrating for Piquet at the moment, who's climbing all over him in the corners, but of course probably just has to watch him disappear down the straights. We'll have a look now if we get a shot of them going away down the other end of the straight, see how much the Ferrari pulls away from the normally aspirated Brabham engine. Unfortunately, we missed it.
And as we look at the leader, Patrese, followed still by Carlos Reutemann, who's hanging on, and both those two seem to be pulling away a bit from Alan Jones. And it's a real testimony, incidentally, this race to the new Ferrari, because they are turbocharged and they don't seem to be having the turbo lag that the Renaults have been having. So there is the leader, Riccardo Patrese. And here is the battle for fourth, and it's Piquet ahead of Pironi, who is ahead of Villeneuve. So Piquet, the man who won the American Grand Prix West at Long Beach last year, has got past both Ferraris now, and he's already pulling out a little gap, and you can see the blue car, the unsponsored Tyrrell of Cheever behind them. And where's Villeneuve? Because look, there behind Pironi, it's Cheever, Andretti and Jacques Lafitte. So Gilles Villeneuve seems to be out of the race. As coming down to Queens, it's the Ferrari of Pironi right up with Piquet, then Cheever, then Andretti, then Jacques Lafitte. Lap 25, Patrese leads Reutemann. Reutemann ahead of Alan Jones, and down to Queens comes Reutemann trying to take Patrese on the outside. Patrese holds the line and the lead. So Riccardo Patrese, the unofficial world sports car champion after his success in 1980, is leading his second Formula One Grand Prix, because he led in South Africa in the Arrows in 1978, but not for anything like as long a distance as he has here today. Reutemann right in his wheel tracks. Jones out of sight just at this point on the circuit. And now Reutemann's right up with Patrese. This is where he could start to challenge. He's very close indeed. When they get onto the fast part of the circuit, out of this twisty section here, from Cook's Corner onto Les Essais du Clos and the Indy left into Le Gazomé, and then the tremendously fast swinging section down Shoreline Drive. In the background there, Le Gazomé, down to the hairpin, Patrese. Reutemann, Jones coming into sight round the left-hander. Jones seems to be watching from the background, and now they're into the really quick part of the circuit.
Yes, Jones seems to be taking it fairly easily. Of course, it's not easy to tell. Oh, and Reutemann's having a go. He's drafted past Patrese, and he's got in front of him. Yep, Reutemann has done it.
Beautiful passing manoeuvre by Carlos Reutemann, who takes the lead. This was the race he won in a Ferrari in 1978, and he's in the lead again. Riccardo Patrese behind him in second place. Alan Jones in the second of the two, Williams in third. Then it's Piquet in fifth place, Pironi in the Ferrari. Sixth position, Eddie Cheever driving superbly in the blue Tyrrell. Patrese. Another lap completed. Carlos Reutemann leads at the end of this lap for the first time, and Jones seems to be closing up on Patrese. He's a lot closer than he was on the previous lap.
I think Patrese might be in a little bit of trouble. He seems to have slowed down rather than Reutemann speeded up, and the gap's opening a bit too fast for him to be fully healthy. And you can also see Jones is closing up as well. Whoops, he had a bit of a wobble there.
Out of the left-hander comes Reutemann, then Patrese, then Jones, so they're just about equidistant, the three cars now. The all-conquering Williams team from 1980. New cars in this race, don't forget. They look almost identical to those that were in South Africa, but they are, in fact, newly developed and entirely different. Reutemann, look at the gap now between himself and Patrese, and Jones is going through. Jones is going through, up into second place. Number one, the world champion, Alan Jones, up into second place. And obviously, I would say, James, that Patrese is in trouble.
Yes, there's no doubt that there must be some mechanical problem that's slowing him down, because he suddenly slowed down. Great shame for Patrese. He's driven an excellent race. It's not easy driving under pressure at the front on a tight street circuit like that. It requires a lot of concentration. And disappointing for him and the Ares team, but at the same time, it must be very encouraging for them to have done so well, and they'll be able to look forward to the rest of the season with new confidence.
Heartbreaking, double world champion Riccardo Patrese, but in karts, and there's the answer. Patrese in the pits, and seemingly everything being done at a very relaxed way, because the tyres are being readied. It doesn't look like a wheel change, although the tyre airlines are being made ready, but there's obviously something. And lap 28, Carlos Reutemann leads his teammate, Piquet in third position, then the Ferrari of Pironi ahead of Eddie Cheever and Mario Andretti in sixth position, and that's the battle. Cheever, Andretti sixth, Lafitte in seventh place, and there's a lovely shot of ex-world champion Mario Andretti, who last year drove for Lotus, left the Lotus team at the end of 1980, changed to Alfa Romeo. This is his first race in the V12 car, and Mario Andretti, the oldest man in the race, is certainly making the most of his opportunity, behind countryman, fellow American Eddie Cheever. Pironi, Cheever, Andretti, Lafitte. It's really building up, this battle for fifth position between these three cars, three very different motor cars. Lap 33, and round the right-hander goes Reutemann and Jones. There's Carlos leading the race into the right-hander, and he's off. Reutemann's off. He's rejoined the course. Jones goes through, and Alan Jones, the world champion, is leading. And Alan Jones has always had a jinx on him here at Long Beach. He has failed to win in the past. It looks as though he's on his way.
Here we can see it again. It looks as if Reutemann just made that little slip there. He must have just locked his brakes or something, got on the slippery stuff. He's bumped over the curbs, and his loss of momentum was enough for Alan Jones to nip very smartly through. A lucky break for Jones, and I would think that he'll be pretty careful not to do the same thing and give it back to Reutemann after that.
And look at that, Jacques Lafitte is ahead of Mario Andretti. Jacques Lafitte in the 12-cylinder Talbot Matra, another new car in this race, first time out. And Jacques Lafitte is now up with Eddie Cheever, and we've just had the news that Alan Jones has gone round fastest lap so far, 1 minute 20.9 seconds, a speed of 89.89 miles an hour. And that's about 1.2 miles an hour slower than the lap record as we look at Pironi coming towards us in the Ferrari, followed by Eddie Cheever. Right in his wheel tracks is Jacques Lafitte, who comes out of his slipstream, and Mario Andretti is dropping back a bit.
Yes, Lafitte's looking pretty aggressive now behind Cheever. He's following him very closely and obviously looking for a way round.
And it seems to me that the three of them, Cheever, Lafitte and Andretti, are closing up on Didier Pironi in the turbocharged 1.5 litre Ferrari ahead of them. There's Pironi in the white helmet and the scarlet car. Cheever, Lafitte and Andretti and Alan Jones. There is the race leader on lap 43 in this 80.5 lap race, a most peculiar race distance, because the race starts on one side of the circuit and finishes on the other. But on lap 43, that is to say over half distance, Alan Jones now well and truly in the lead.
Yes, it's interesting to see that Jones has just is now building a bit of a lead over Reutemann, because having tracked him for the first half of the race and without putting much pressure on him, Lafitte was having a go there. It's a most extraordinary place to try it, but it didn't work, but nobody came to any harm. But Jones now seems to be dominating the race in a way that he didn't look as if he was going to do earlier on when Patrese was leading it and commanding it. But of course, it's a very hard circuit physically. They'll already be getting pretty tired, and Jones is the strong man of the two.
And Mario Andretti's closed the gap. He's closed the gap between himself and Jacques Lafitte. He comes out of Lafitte's slipstream every so often. Has a look as Pironi goes round. Cheever, Lafitte and Andretti absolutely nose to tail. Plenty of room for mistakes there. They're very, very close to each other as they accelerate away down up into fifth gear. A long shoreline drive, battle for fifth place that we're looking at now, coming down to Queen's Hairpin. 22 Mario Andretti Alfa Romeo, 1978 world champion. Alan Jones, race leader, well ahead of this lot. And that's Lafitte. Look, I said they were close. They were much too close for comfort. Jacques Lafitte has obviously run into the back of something. Cheever has now got Mario Andretti right behind him. And undoubtedly, Jacques Lafitte is going to have a lot of trouble seeing, never mind driving the car quickly. He'll be into the pits for a new nose section, but that's going to slow him a great deal.
Yes, that'll put him right out of the running, unfortunately, changing his nose.
That's Jean-Pierre Jarier. Now, this car that you're looking at, the blue one, was supposed to have been driven by Jean-Pierre Jabouille, the ex-Renault driver, who broke his legs last year, but is still not fit enough. And Jarier, at the last moment, took his place. He was tremendously quick in the first practice, but was fairly well down at the end of practice, but he's going very well now. And we're looking at Cheever and Andretti, and Andretti is really forcing the American ahead of him, Eddie Cheever, young Eddie Cheever, after 5 seasons in Formula 2. And now Andretti's going through. Andretti's going through ahead of Cheever. The Alfa Romeo has taken that position, and he holds it, dropping down the hill. So, Andretti pulling away a bit now. He's got past the Tyrrell.
Here we are, we can see this again now. Andretti coming through on the inside. Cheever doesn't give up. A bit of inexperience showing there because he fights on. Really, he had no chance of getting into the corner first, and he would have been better off just to have eased up a bit. But he's certainly showing plenty of aggression and determination there.
So, there it is, well over half distance. Jones, Reutemann, Piquet, Pironi fourth. Andretti, we've just seen, move up into fifth place ahead of Eddie Cheever as we look down from the helicopter. And you can see now just what this Long Beach 2-mile circuit is like as Alan Jones goes into the Queen's Hairpin. Then there's a little short straight before he goes into the left-hander, out of second gear and away. Then into a right-hand bend. Now left and along Pine Avenue, and it's Pironi and Mario Andretti. So the two Italian cars, the Scarlet Ferrari and the white and red Alfa Romeo. That's the battle for fourth place. Mario Andretti having got past Cheever on lap 53. There's Cheever dropping back. Don't forget that ahead there's still Jones and Reutemann and Nelson Piquet and Mario Andretti really pushing.
Yes, he's going to have a struggle with this Ferrari because it does seem to be quick in a straight line. We'll get a chance to compare this, hopefully, in a moment when we see the two cars go down the main straight together, because the Alfa Romeo has the most powerful of the normally aspirated 3-litre engines and quite a lot more power than any of the others. Oh, and Andretti's got inside him. And he's got through.
Andretti through and up into 4th position. Pironi right behind him, and now we'll see how quickly the Ferrari goes.
And there it is. That's obviously producing a lot of power, that new turbocharged Ferrari engine, because he's just walked past the Alfa on straight acceleration out of the hairpin. So Mario's going to have to get several lengths clear when he comes onto the straight in order to fend off that sort of surge.
And when I tell you that the V12 Alfa Romeo, the second of these two cars, produces over 500 horsepower, you can judge how much horsepower the Ferrari produces to be able to just walk past the Alfa on the straight the way it did. That's the new turbocharged 1.5-litre Ferrari with Didier Pironi, ex-Ligier driver, at the wheel in his first Grand Prix for Ferrari.
It's one of the Ferraris, and I'm not sure which one, whether it was Villeneuve's or Pironi's, has a Comprex turbocharging system, which cuts out throttle lag. It's don't ask me how it works exactly, but it's some sort of variation on the turbocharging theme, and if that's the one producing that much power and without a throttle lag, I should think that the days... Whoops!
Andretti through! Andretti, look at that!
Pironi's
in trouble.
He slowed right down then.
Yes, Pironi has slowed. Maybe he just missed a gear, but anyway, you can see that now Eddie Cheever has closed up. So, Mario Andretti back into 4th position, a long way behind Piquet, of course, and Pironi now is fighting back. And do you hear the crowd roar? That's because their hero, Mario Andretti, their fellow American, is ahead of Didier Pironi in the Ferrari and looking now like staying there. Mario Andretti into 4th place, ahead of him Piquet, ahead of Piquet Reutemann, ahead of Reutemann Jones. And now Andretti is definitely extending the gap, and definitely Cheever is closing up on Pironi. Another lap completed.
I think Pironi must have just missed a gear then or something like that, because he doesn't appear to be suffering any problem, unless he's got a bit of fuel surge or something like that. But he definitely seemed to lose power in that corner.
Well, watch Eddie Cheever, the blue car. That's Eddie Cheever, number 3, 24 years old, lives in Rome, and he's ahead. He's ahead, out of our sight. Eddie Cheever has moved up. He's now behind Mario Andretti, so Cheever is well in the points because he's in 5th position, and that gives him 2 points.
That was the same corner, in fact, that Pironi slowed on the last lap, so I presume he's got some sort of a mechanical problem.
Lap 58 out of 80.5. Williams leads Williams, then the Brabham of Nelson Piquet, that's Pironi, and now Alan Jones is right up to the 6th place man, Didier Pironi, and going through to lap him. Alan Jones then will in a moment, like now, have lapped everybody up to 5th position. He's driving smoothly, he's driving well within himself, an enormous amount of experience of this Long Beach circuit. It's one of his great ambitions to win here because he has been thwarted several times, notably in 1978 when he drove an absolute flyer of a race behind Carlos Reutemann, his teammate today, who was then in a Ferrari.
Whoops. That's Hector Rabat having a little spin, and he seems to have parked it in rather an inconvenient spot.
Now, what's he going to do? He's in the car. Here's somebody bearing down on him, and he's got through. That shows you how good the driver's reflexes are, because he is unsighted until that's Cheever going through. And that looks like Carlos Reutemann as we look down from the camera position. No, it's Alan Jones. Alan Jones, the race leader, and that could have been a nasty moment for him. He could easily have T-but. That's Rosberg, and there is Reutemann. Out go the marshals. Now, they've got to move fast. Is it stuck in gear? No, it's not. And Hector Rabat himself, who's just recovered from hepatitis, incidentally, helps them move it as Lafitte goes through. That's Tambay, number 33. Patrick Tambay, driving in his first Grand Prix for a long time, has now moved up into 6th position ahead of Pironi as we look at last year's winner, Nelson Piquet, in 3rd position in the Brabham. The Brabham, in practice, had a fancy suspension system, an entirely new one, which didn't work out as well as they had hoped, and they weren't able to use it for the race. But Piquet now, as we look at him, number 5, the man who won 3 Grand Prix last year, including this one, is in 3rd position and not looking like improving on it.
That looks like the Ferrari pit. Yes, that's Pironi, obviously given up the unequal struggle with some sort of mechanical problem, which is quite rare for a Ferrari, but of course it's an all-new car with an all-new engine, and so one would expect them to have the odd problem.
Lap 78, 2 laps to go, and a car we haven't seen much of in this race. Of these two at the back, it's the Renault of René Arnoux, the diminutive Frenchman, the turbocharged Renault, behind the car we're looking at now, number 1, world champion Alan Jones in the Saudi Leyland Williams. And there is René Arnoux behind. You'll remember earlier on in the race, Arnoux was in the pits. Now he's driving behind Alan Jones, and Alan Jones going into lap 79 in this 80.5 lap race. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Alan Jones tries to keep ahead of Arnoux, whether Arnoux will try to take Alan Jones and unlap himself in the process. Alan has absolutely no need to hurry, absolutely no need, of course, to rattle himself, because he's got a clear track in front of him. Reutemann is a long way behind him. Alan is on his way now, almost home, to his first Grand Prix victory of 1981. And sure enough, René Arnoux goes through. Alan Jones moves over and lets him through, with the sure knowledge that he hasn't got very far to go before he has got a secure 9 valuable points for the 1981 World Championship. And Alan very, very much wants to win that championship, because it is a long, long time since anybody won 2 World Championships in a row. And as a matter of interest, it was his countryman Sir Jack Brabham who did it last. So Australian Alan Jones will have a great ambition to match him. Well,
it's been an excellent race for the Williams team again. Their form has carried straight through from last year by the look of things, despite the fact that everybody's had to build new cars. These are different cars. Alan Jones now starting his last lap at Reutemann in 2nd place. It's a truly outstanding performance by the Williams team, when everybody else is having bits of trouble here and there around them. They've just marched impressively on.
This is Alan Jones's 82nd Grand Prix. It will be, if he finishes this lap in this position, his 11th win in Grand Prix racing. And he's had a wonderful winter in Australia, getting set up for this vital season. And now he's almost home. And there's the flagman, all ready to produce that checkered flag and wave it at Alan Jones. He gets the ovation from the crowd that he richly deserves, as he goes down to the hairpin for the last time, rounding Shoreline Drive, braking hard, going down through the gearbox, looking in his mirror to make sure that everything is clear behind him, because he must not make a mistake now. Now he's on to the winding section to Pine Avenue and on to Ocean Boulevard, and it's there that he'll see that checkered flag go out to give him his 9 points and the World Championship lead, because the South African Grand Prix did not count for World Championship points. Alan Jones almost home. That's it. There's the checkered flag, and the 1981 US Grand Prix West at Long Beach has been won by Alan Jones in the new Saudi Leyland Williams, with the whole season yet ahead of him. Carlos Reutemann, his teammate, not so very far behind him in 2nd place as Jones comes to a standstill. And there is Nelson Piquet, 1st last year, 3rd this year, and 9 points for Jones, 6 for Reutemann, 4 for Piquet, 3 for Mario Andretti. That's a good move. And 2 for Eddie Cheever, and 1, a great point for Patrick Tambay, his first drive in the Theodore. And from America, the next race goes to South America, to Brazil on